longevity isn't built on big breakthroughs. It's built on small things you can repeat every single night. And when something starts showing up in conversations about sleep, inflammation, and recovery, it deserves a closer look. Leading health voices like Dr. Eric Berg have been talking about the benefits of earthing for a while now. And if you've gone looking into sleep or recovery, you've probably seen them pop up.
When I first heard about sleeping on a mat plugged into your wall, it made me really nervous.
So in this video, we're breaking down what grounding mats actually are, what they claim, and how to think about them clearly before you decide if this is something you'd like to live with long term. What makes grounding mats tricky isn't that they're obviously good or obviously bad. It's that they sit in a weird middle space. They're not something your primary doctor is recommending.
No.
They're not part of the standard sleep or longevity guidelines. But they're also not fringe enough to ignore completely.
And that's usually the hardest category to evaluate. When something is clearly mainstream, you trust it. When something is clearly out there, you dismiss it. But grounding mats live in that uncomfortable middle where the opinions are loud, the confidence is high, and the evidence feels scattered.
If you listen to mainstream longevity conversations, exercise, sleep, light, nutrition, grounding mats almost never come up. Not because anyone is attacking them, they're just not prioritized. And when something isn't talked about much by mainstream voices, a vacuum forms.
And marketing rushes in to fill that vacuum. That's when you start seeing really confident language, really strong personal stories, really big promises, all around something most people don't fully understand yet.
That's also why reactions get polarized. Some people swear by them. Some people just roll their eyes. But what's missing in the middle is a calm explanation of what's actually going on and how to think about it without feeling dumb, gullible, or closed-minded.
Because if you're someone who already cares about sleep, recovery, or inflammation, it's not unreasonable to be curious. It's also not unreasonable to feel nervous. Both of those reactions make sense.
And that's really the point of this section. Grounding mats aren't confusing because they're mysterious. They're confusing because they exist outside of the system most of us use to decide what's worth our time. So before you even talk about claims or safety, you need a way to think clearly in that gray area. So with that context, let's slow it all the way down. Before claims, before experiences, before opinions, let's talk about what grounding mats actually are. At its core, a grounding mat is not complicated. It's a mat made with conductive materials, usually carbon or silver, designed to connect your body to an electrical ground. That's it. The idea comes from grounding, sometimes called earthing, the same concept as walking barefoot on natural ground, but translated into an indoor product.
There's no electricity being pushed into you. There's no current running through the mat. It's not powered in the way most people think of something being plugged in.
When people hear plugged into the wall, their brain jumps straight to electricity. But what's actually being used is the grounding port. It's the same grounding system that exists in your home for safety. The mat is simply connected right to that ground.
That distinction matters because once you understand that, a lot of the fear either settles or at least becomes more specific.
And that's important because grounding mats aren't trying to do something active. They're not stimulating, they're not emitting anything. They're not forcing a change. They're passive by design.
Which is also why people end up talking past each other. Supporters talk about what grounding might allow the body to do. Skeptics hear claims and assume something aggressive or invasive is happening. But mechanically, the mat itself is pretty simple.
It's also why where you use it matters. People put grounding mats on their bed, under their desk, or on the floor to stand on. Not because these locations are magical, but because that's where you already spend your time.
And that's really the takeaway here. Before you get into claims, studies, or experiences, it helps to understand that a grounding mat isn't a machine. It's not a treatment. It's not a therapy. It's a passive interface between your body and the ground.
Once you understand that, you're in a much better position to evaluate everything else calmly. So now that we've stripped away the mystery, the next question becomes obvious. If the mat itself is simple, what are people actually claiming it does? Once you understand what a grounding mat actually is, the claims around it start to make more sense, at least structurally. It's not about whether they're true or not, but why people describe them in the way that they do.
Most grounding mat claims fall into a familiar category. They're not about fixing a specific problem. They're about supporting things people already care about, like sleep, stress, recovery, and inflammation.
Those are all areas where people feel subtle changes. Improvements aren't binary, and outcomes vary a lot from person to person, which makes them really hard to measure cleanly.
That's also why personal stories dominate the conversation. Someone sleeps better, someone feels calmer, someone wakes up less stiff. Those experiences are real to them, but they're also deeply subjective.
And when claims are mostly based on experience instead of clear universal markers, two things happen at the same time. Supporters feel validated, skeptics feel unconvinced. Both reactions make sense.
Another layer is that grounding mats are often discussed alongside bigger lifestyle changes. Better sleep habits, more attention to recovery, less screen time before bed. So it becomes really hard to isolate what's doing what.
That's not a criticism, it's just reality. When something is passive, subtle, and layered into daily life, you don't get a clean cause and effect. You get interpretation.
Which is why the conversation gets so polarized. One side hears, "This helps me," and treats it as proof. The other hears the same story and sees placebo or coincidence. And neither side is actually wrong. They're just using different standards.
This is where a lot of people get stuck. They're not trying to argue. They just want to know how to think about claims that sound reasonable but aren't easy to verify.
And that's the moment where pressure creeps in. Because when claims feel vague but positive, the decision starts to feel emotional instead of rational.
So before you decide what to believe, there's one more layer that really matters. Not the claims themselves, but how to evaluate the product safely and intelligently. Once you get past the claims, the most useful question isn't, does this work? It's, what actually matters if I'm even considering this? Because not all grounding mats or companies are created equal.
And this is where a lot of people get tripped up. Not because grounding mats are dangerous, but because they're often presented without enough context to help you feel confident.
The first thing that matters is who you're buying from. You want a real company, clear contact information, clear explanations of how the product works. If something feels vague, rushed, or overly confident without explanation, that's worth pausing on.
The second thing is materials transparency. A grounding mat should clearly explain what's conductive, what touches your skin, and how it's built. You shouldn't have to guess what you're sleeping on.
The third thing, and this is the one most people worry about, is how it connects to the ground. A reputable product will explain how it uses the ground port, what assumptions it's making about your home, and what it does not do. If the explanation makes you feel anxious instead of calmer, that's a signal.
Another thing that matters more than people realize is language. If a product promises dramatic changes, instant results, or makes you feel like you're missing out, that's pressure. Calm products tend to use calm language.
And finally, there's expectation management. Grounding mats aren't marketed as something you feel immediately in a dramatic way. At least not honestly. Anything passive and subtle should be approached with patience, not urgency.
If you're someone who already pays attention to sleep, recovery, and stress, curiosity makes sense. If you're hoping for a shortcut or a fix, this probably isn't it. And knowing that up front is actually freeing.
That's really the point of this section. You don't need to believe in grounding mats. You don't need to dismiss them either. You just need enough clarity to decide whether this is even worth your attention.
But what happened for us, the good, the weird, and the unexpected, deserves its own conversation. No hype, no conclusions handed to you, just experience. Keep watching to see our results.
Let's dance. Let's do a little boogie, 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 boogie.